but a lot of material that gives us a perfect picture of what happened in Britain, but that could be just a little picture of what could happen in Europe over 1 million years. So what I've been doing here is tracking human behavior through the analysis of something extremely small, which are cut marks. Now, cut marks are small traces left on bones, and they are produced while a stone tool, this is what they were, it could be metal, but mainly stone tool, is used to butcher animals, every sort of animal, and you will see why I'm saying that. And when you do that, sometimes the stone tool touch the bone and leave these very small traces. And this gives us a huge amount of information about the behavior of the hominid at the time, what they were eating, what they were doing, what were their funerary practice. So that is mainly my area.
And today we're going to take everyone on a journey back through the past 1 million years of Britain. And there's something very special about Britain, which is that it's an island. And this event is called an ever-changing island. So how does it change through the past 1 million years?
Well, what is not just a change with people, is a lot of changes. We have changes in species occupying Britain, and we will see that there are Homo sapiens, us, but there will also before us Neanderthal, Homo heidelbergensis, and then a species that we don't still know what it is, because we know that it's at least 800,000 years old, but we are not sure which species it is, and we think it's Homo antecessor, which has been found in Spain. And these are more or less what we're going to talk about. So different species, but also different environment, which actually is the reason why we have different people coming in, why we have different animals coming in, and why the island, which is now an island, actually wasn't always an island.
So at the moment, are we in a fairly warm period of time?
Yes, and particularly this room. But it's also probably getting warmer and warmer, as you always know and heard and repeatedly heard. So let's move on that. But
so what happens when it was in a much colder time?
Well, this is our problem in case it gets much warmer, and the precipitation will be mainly water, there will be less ice, and this means that the sea level will raise, which could be a problem for a lot of area in UK, not mentioned the Netherlands or Venice for the matter, but it means that England will be even more of an island, so the channel will be even wider, and there will be loss of a lot of land.
Let's see what it looks like. So we're back now to how it is now, and this is what it's like when it's much cooler. We can't even see the UK anymore.
No, it disappears part of Europe or France. Like a very difficult balance. But then, if it is an island, it could not move into England. So these bridges, which are larger, this case is extremely large or smaller, allowed this movement of animal and people.
And yeah, throughout this event, we'll see the effects that has had on what's been happening with the specimens that you're working with. So this is the UK now, but we're now going to.
In case you forgot.
We're not going to go too far back.
Natural History Museum, and that is the picture on the far right. Show this dig was conducted in a very small area, just this large, probably kind of a meter and a half, just behind the rock, which probably protected this corner from being destroyed or excavated previously. And in that space, very small pot, it was found probably 6 individual, very fragmentary material, 6 individual Homo sapiens like us, a very small child, probably around 3 years old, 2 adolescents, 12 and 14 years old, and then 3 adults.
And did they have any cut marks for you to get excited about?
Oh yes, they did, and that is the intriguing thing, because obviously if you find cut marks on a horse, you don't have a problem, you just think, oh, it's been butchered and eaten. When you find cut marks on human, can you easily say, oh yes, it was just butchered and eaten. But this is actually what happened, they were butchered and eaten. And we, oh yes. This is actually, they are quite proud of that, the gorge. And this is, I think, is a poster that I is a picture I took there on a tea room just opposite to the museum. So they quite like the whole idea. And so this is us working on the material, and the big bones you can see are actually just reference. What you can see more is these little boxes because the material is extremely fragmented. But there is a reason for that, because it was humanly broken. So they were actually cutting the individual to take off the meat, but inside the bones there is bone marrow, which is extremely rich in nutrients. So the thing you do with animal as well is to break in the bone, to extract the bone marrow, because, as I said, it's something good to eat. And we have clear sign of all this modification, or just this is a clear example. Those harrow indicate this percussion. So you have a stone tool, you actually use probably another stone tool as an angle on the back, and you try to break the bone, and you create this longitudinal fracture with all these small indentation, which are called percussion marks. And those are even more clear evidence of cannibalism. If you find cut marks, it's very difficult. If you only have one bone with few cut marks, it's very difficult on hominids saying what it is. Because if you think this is crazy, during Mesolithic and Neolithic time, they were using to deflesh bodies without eating the meat, but cleaning the bones from the primary position where they were buried, to clean them and moving in the definitive place where they were buried. So cut marks don't indicate cannibalism in that case, but a completely different burial practice. But when you have percussion mark, indicate something much different, I think. Indicate that there is the use of the bone to extract bone marrow, which is nutrient. So cut marks, percussion marks are very good indicators of cannibalism. There's one more.
I was going to say, did you find any other evidence for cannibalism? I love how your face lights up as soon as we start talking about cannibalism.
I know, I like that very much.
So what other evidence did you find?
This one. So here is a good example, because on the left, this is a rib, so what you can see here. On the left part is the point of connection of the rib with your vertebra on the back. And you can see those vertical lines quite clearly just there. And those are cut marks. So it clearly indicate that it was open, the thoracic cage, to extract nutrient. But this end here was broken and what we call peeling. So some of the superficial part, the cortical surface was removed. How can you explain that?
So this isn't a human bone, we need to clarify that.
Yeah, that's for me. But this is actually what happened. It was an experimental work to see how tooth mark leave, which kind of traces you can leave on animal in general. So that's a pig, promised. And the modification we observed, it was a Spanish tooth, it wasn't even us doing it. It's very similar to what we observed at Goughs scale, and we have found, with their help, a lot of evidence that there are a huge amount of tooth mark on this bone. There are about 65% of the material has cut marks. 20%, between 20-30% has percussion damage, but there is 35% of the bone, particularly ribs, have sign of tooth marks. So they were really going for it.
So it's fairly conclusive evidence of cannibalism.
Yeah, there's also
this one here.
And again, is what they call a pit, and is produced probably by a canine. You can see these also, this kind of pit produced by carnivore, but there is absolutely no trace of carnivore presence there, that they were fighting and using these bones. So again, this is being produced by human. And as I said, there are quite a lot of evidence for this, so no doubt.
And as well as this evidence of cannibalism, you found something even more exciting.
Yeah, obviously.
And you brought a replica
I brought
along
a
with you as
replica
well.
with me just to show. And all the original will be in the bone exhibition, the very last room. We are doing actually the opposite of what we're going to see just to make it more interesting.
So what are these and why are they so exciting?
Yes, I put here. So this is a human skull, a modern human skull like us. And there are evidence of cannibalism, of use of the skull, basically the brain, because again, it's very nutrient. And when you break a skull to extract the brain, the skull are normally extremely fragmentary. And that's because what you do is just smashing from the very top, is break in a lot of pieces and you can extract the brain. So this is what is a normal skull look like, and this is what we have for Goughs cave. So it wasn't broken from the very top, but it was broken, all the facial bones have been removed, and all the basic cranium here was removed, and then the rim was left. It was broken very, very gently to create a very smooth modification. And this is because this has become an object and is a skull cap. So it is possible that they were not just eating the animal and the human, but they were modifying the human skull in producing an object. And it's for this reason that I think that in the case of Goughs cave, we're not just talking about cannibal, but we're talking about a proper ritual. Someone who was doing that in a form of tradition. So it was their own personal way to deal with dead bodies.
And it's amazing that you can look at these cut marks and find out about human behaviour, but I guess things like rituals are much harder to get any kind of evidence for.
Yeah, normally at this point they ask me, so they were killing them? I don't know, because there are no trace of trauma on the bones, so it's difficult to tell. I think they died naturally and they were just dealing with the bodies as they usually do. But interestingly, when we started to think, oh, they look like skull cap, how is skull cap? And if you are interested in skull cap, I encourage you to Google it, and you will see how many skull cap have been diffused around the world. Tibetan skull cap, which are actually very beautiful, with really beautiful dolls, with sometimes there is some silver around, and they are used in tradition. And then there are Aboriginal, Australian use skull cap, and even older in Bronze Age were skull cap. But even more interestingly, we found skull cap that date exactly the same time as Goughs cave, and they've been found in France. There are two sites in France, Le Placard and Isturiz, where there are at least 4 and 5 skulls that have been modified to skull cap. And we talk about this, probably the same population, what we call Magdalene. So it's not just the fact that we've observed those modifications, it's the fact that we can find this modification in other sites very similar, bring us to think that it was ritualistic and it was something that it was common to this population.
So Goughs cave is a very exciting site, and you can see there it's around about here in Sunset, and it's 14,000 years ago. So we're going to travel a little bit further back in time now, to 120,000 years ago. So what was the climate like then?
Oh, that was even warmer than this room. It was actually, yes, warmer than now in summer. And it was probably a beautiful place to be in England, with an enormous amount of different type of fauna. We have something not particularly exotic, like red deer. We have animals similar to what we know now. We need to swim, or even with raft or anything. And therefore, some of those animals managed to ride there quite soon, while the only didn't make it. Others, like the hippo, were probably swimming all along the coast, from the Mediterranean coast up to Spain, France, etc., and reaching here. And they actually travel up to York in some case, following the river. So an extremely rich environment, but empty of human presence.
And no cut marks, so we'll skip a bit further back in time quite quickly. So we're now going to 160,000 years ago. You can see it looks very different.
And so lives are changing because it's cold. And it's time of a different species, it's time of the Neanderthal, and this is a cast of a Neanderthal. And at the Bonn exhibition you will see something even more interesting, because there is a complete reconstruction of a Neanderthal. Well, it's the one in the big poster, obviously. Neanderthal have always been described as some underspecies. subspecies compared to us, but in fact they were quite clever. They survived at the moment more than what we did so far, so respect. And they also were knowledgeable, they were a good hunter, they probably had clothes, they can make fire, they probably survive in different environments, so they adapt quite easily. There are not that many evidence. There are different types of Neanderthal, not getting into details. These are two teeth of juvenile from Newit in Wales. But what is a very interesting site is actually Jersey, and we have much more teeth here. So Jersey has been again excavated for a very long time, and is the most French of the English bits, I would say. It's very, very close to France, so a very easy bridge for the Neanderthal before coming to England actually to stop there. And there must have been a huge amount of fauna, because in this little galley they found they found a huge amount of bones of big animals like elephant and rhino. And if we go back to the previous one, it just showed that there was, some of these bones were moved in one area of this galley, so they were kind of organized, meaning that probably the Neanderthal were using a space for butchering, another space to discard the bones. Some of them could have possibly, the task of being used for fire, to burn, so they have quite an intriguing technique. But how they could collect so many big animals, how could they hunt it? And this has been probably the most debated question for Jersey, how they could kill so many elephants at the time, mammoths at the time. And yeah.
So what are the theories? You said it's been very hotly debated.
It is, and again, the bomb exhibition, there's a little video of Becky Scott who has worked on this, and she can present it much better, but I give it a try. So the original idea is La Cotte, so this is just behind that point. The picture you see before is just behind us. So the original idea is that hominin were kind of pushing this herd of mammals along the cliff up there. I don't know how, probably by shouting behind, and then they would fall through, and that's how they were killing a huge amount of mammals in one go. And that is not normally what has been demonstrated or shown in other sites. Also, this is not very visible, but here, in this point there, not a little more left, there, is actually now filled. But 180,000 years ago was probably a crevasse there, so there was no way that the mammals could bridge that gap. The HAYOP team, which is the project behind the Old Bommy exhibition, has done a lot of work, and particularly on the morphology of the seabed around Jersey. Now Jersey is an island, and the sea is right there, right on the cliff. But 160,000 years ago, that's probably more likely what it looked like around. So here on the left is where this area is, and it's more likely that the elephants were isolated the weakest and moved in that corner, which was quite protective from where they were killed. And this was a repeated process, and it fits much better with the sediment that we have in Jersey, because it looks like it's been a very, very long occupation of this area. So it's not a one big killing, but rather killing of one single animal along a long period of time.
It's a really nice example of how new technology is constantly being used to change the story of ancient Britain.
Yes, there is always there is new dig. What we do is going around and finding a new place, but there also of the pain and environment at the time is likely to be this site that I'm going to talk about, which is Haysborough. So Haysborough on the Thames. Haysborough in Norfolk. It's, don't know if anybody's been there.
Oh, quite a few people.
Okay, so you know better than I do. It's a nice area, but unfortunately for So they built barrier which are now completely useless, and the cliff keep collapsing. And just last year with the bad winter we had, it was a disaster. On the bright side of the story, that exposed sediment that we would have never been able to reach. So all this area on the beach, which would have never been accessible because under a huge amount of cliff, is now available. Now, you've seen the picture of Goughs, they were all happy. This is how we live in April, which is horrible. You are constantly underwater, it is freezing in June, I don't know why. Only when this spring that the Goughs arrive is sunny. So, I don't know what happened. We always looked extremely miserable and grey and muddy. And in, I think, 7 years of excavation, 5 stones will have been found. They are all in the exhibition. They are beautiful for those who like stones, but it's still quite a lot of work for those few tools. But there's also a huge amount of fauna and pine cones, which in the exhibition are my favorite specimen, because they are so delicate, they are so small, and they are 1 million years old. So that for me is remarkable, that they survived all this time to tell us a story about how the environment was at that time.
And before this cliff fall, did we expect that there would have been any evidence of humans at 1 million
No,
years ago?
this is quite a big change that happened thanks to the project I was lucky to be part of, the AGO project, because remember this big ice cap? It was thought that it destroyed every single site previous to 450,000, or it was covered by such, but we proved that actually it was covering sediment. The sediment was covering sites much more ancient, so these sites are there. It just didn't occur to find them, and only I think 7 years ago probably was Blackfield first, which dates 700,000 years, and then Haysborough, that has been proven that the occupation of Britain happened so early in time. And Haysborough is not unique for having people living around in Europe around 1 million. And all those dots indicate where people were. But if you look at the boreal zone, so an area which is much colder, Haysborough was the only area where these hominid were found. As I said, we don't know which species it is, but the only other species in Europe is Homo antecessor that was found in Spain. And this is a child, it's this little fossil here, the last one. So it's quite special and open even more questions. How could they survive to that climate? The fire didn't appear. It wasn't discovered around 400,000 years ago. Probably even no clothes. And yet they were there in a temperature that looks more like South Sweden today, surviving in this very hostile environment for some time.
And you mentioned that we found a very few stone tools. Have we found any other evidence that
So we don't have any hominid fossil, but this is what we think it looked like the area, and this reconstruction is the sediment of the other stone tools. They look like footprints. We thought we were going mad, but I think that, and there is in the exhibition a cast, they really, oh, I forgot to bring the cast.
You can see it afterwards.
Yes, they are exactly the shape of a footprint. And by taking measurement of these cuts or this footprint, they really think that the hominid more likely to be the one who produced them is Homo antecessor, because in this case, in Spain, we have the fossil. And so we can compare the two things.
It just seems incredible that there's no human remains, but a footprint to survive. So how does that preservation process
In a way, an individual can be much more footprint than bones. And preservation of bones is extremely hard, particularly when you are, this was probably an area where there was a river which was being covered very quickly by sediment, and that's how this footprint was preserved. But that is the opposite of an ideal environment to preserve fossils. If you have a hominid who fell into a river, there will be transport of most of the bones, so you will have scattered bones very, very quickly. They will be consumed, and so it's extremely hard to find them. And that's why we not happy to dig in water up to here. Now the new excavation are done completely underwater to see if we can find something else related to this time.
And that just about ends our journey 1 million years back in time. I wonder if anyone's got any questions for Silvia.